Okay, today we are opening up the Business Strategist's Playbook. And I want to be clear, this is not some dry academic theory. No, this is a real-world tool, the kind that separates the businesses that really take off from the ones that, well, don't. We're talking about industry analysis, so let's get right into it.
So, imagine this. You've got a game-changing idea, a product or a service that you just know the world needs. But here's that nagging question, the one that keeps so many founders up at night. Is a great idea actually enough? Could all of that passion, all that hard work, be doomed to fail before you even get off the ground? It's a scary thought, right? But it's one we have to face. Because here is the hard truth of it all. Even the most brilliant idea can get absolutely crushed if you launch it onto the wrong battlefield. You see, success isn't just about what you're selling, it's about where you're selling it. The industry you choose to compete in, that might just be the single most important decision you ever make. And that brings us to our very first play from the playbook, choosing your battlefield. This is exactly where industry analysis comes into the picture. Think of it like this. It's the recon mission you run before you commit all your resources. It's how smart leaders scout the terrain to figure out if the fight is even winnable in the first place. So what is it, really? Well, at its core, industry analysis is just a methodical way to size up an industry. You're looking at how it's built, its potential for profit, all the different forces at play, and you're doing all of this to answer one simple question. Is this a good place to be in business? All right, so the very first step in that analysis is to size up the prize. I mean, before you jump into any competition, you've got to know what you're playing for, right? How big is the potential reward? And maybe more importantly, is that reward getting bigger or smaller over time? And that really boils down to two key things: market size and growth. Market size is basically all the money being spent in an industry right now, the total pie. And the growth rate? Well, that tells you which way the wind is blowing. A big market is great, for sure. But a big market that's also growing, that's the sweet spot. To make this feel a little more real, get a load of this number: $2.1 trillion. That's the projected size of the global e-commerce market alone. A number that massive just screams opportunity. It tells you there is an incredible prize to be won. And this chart really drives home why growth is so important. On one side, you've got an industry like renewable energy, which is just expanding like crazy. That's a rising tide that can lift all the boats in it. But on the other side, you have something like print newspapers, which is shrinking. It is so much harder to win when the entire pie is getting smaller every year. Let's move on to our next play, analyzing the defenses. Once you know the prize is worth fighting for, you have to figure out how hard it is to actually get into the game. And this is all about understanding something called barriers to entry. You know, Warren Buffett put this perfectly. He said that what really matters isn't just how much an industry will grow, but the durability of a company's advantage. And high barriers to entry, that's what creates those durable, defensible positions, what he famously calls moats, that protect a business from a flood of new competitors. So what do these defenses actually look like in the real world? Well, they could be things like needing a massive amount of cash upfront, to build factories or something. Or it could be incredibly strong brand loyalty, where customers just won't switch. Sometimes it's a super complex web of government regulations, or even protected technology and patents. The more of these barriers an industry has, the harder it is for anyone new to break in. Okay, so you've sized up the prize, you've checked out the defenses. The last piece of the puzzle is to scout the other players who are already on the field, because the way the competition is structured has a huge impact on how profitable that industry can be. And that competitive landscape can look totally different from one industry to the next. Is it a monopoly, where one company basically owns the whole thing? Or an oligopoly, run by just a few giants? Or maybe it's a total free-for-all, kind of like a farmer's market, where anybody can show up, but it's really tough for any one person to make a huge profit. The structure really defines the rules of the game. And here is the bottom line on that. When everyone is fighting tooth and nail for the exact same customers, usually by cutting prices, profits get squeezed for everybody. A hyper-competitive industry is almost always a low-profit industry. Now, to really see how much of a difference all this makes, let's put it all together and kind of review the game film. The best way to see the power of this playbook is to see it in action in the real world. So let's look at a tale of two very, very different industries.
Okay, check out this comparison. On one hand, you have the airline industry. The barriers to entry are sky high. I mean, planes cost a fortune.
But the competition is just brutal, constantly leading to price wars. The result? Historically, profitability has been super low. Now, contrast that with software. The barriers can be pretty low, but companies are able to carve out these incredibly profitable niches, leading to potentially huge profits. And this table really breaks down why. Just look at the metrics side by side. Airlines need massive amounts of cash, but customer loyalty is almost non-existent. People will switch airlines to save $10. But with enterprise software, the cost and the hassle of switching to a competitor is so high that customers get sticky, which allows for really healthy profit margins. It's like they're playing two completely different games. So what is the big takeaway from all of this? What's the final play? It's that your choice of industry is not just some minor detail. It is a massive strategic decision. Think about it. An average company in a fantastic industry can do pretty well, but even a brilliant company in a terrible industry might struggle just to survive. So the next time you have that world-changing idea, just pause for a second. Before you charge ahead, ask yourself the most important strategic question there is. Looking at the size of the prize, the height of the walls, and the intensity of the fight, what battlefield will you choose?